Welcome to my top 5 favorite war games. Today we're going to take a look at some war games you may not have heard of. Some of these war games stand out, some are a bit different, but they all provide an intense simulation at the tactical, operation, and strategic level. The first one we're going to take a look at is Graviteam Tactics. This is by far one of my favorite, and it's a staple on this channel. It simulates the Eastern Front in an extremely realistic fashion with timed artillery strikes, combined arms tactics, aircraft, and all other types of weapon systems. However, it does have some DLCs that take place during the modern age, such as the Iran-Iraq War and a few battles that take place in Africa. Overall, it's one of my favorite war games. I do enjoy a lot of the DLCs, especially the modern ones. It talks about having two game modes, which is the operation and tactical. The operation is where operational level is where you would manage your troops on the battlefield. You'll resupply them, replace them, issue them orders, and then you'll conduct the tactical battle. Overall, I think it simulates the Eastern Front, or at least the tactical battles, quite well. They do kind of drag on a little bit, but you can have these fun combined arms combats where tanks just battle each other, infantry battle each other, and watching the battle unfold is truly a sight to behold. It's something that really got me into wargaming, and it provides you with that real cinematic experience. Overall, it has a very clean UI. Although a lot of people don't enjoy that UI, I do think the UI does make sense in for how the game is designed, though. Overall, the developers continue to release DLCs for it. They continue to update the game. There's definitely detailed weapon modeling, realistic ballistics. You can take a look at some of the features in the game where you can target a tank, and then you can see whether or not you're going to penetrate the side armor, the top armor, or the rear armor, front armor. You can also toggle between different munitions, such as ATGM rounds, because there is ATGMs, and anti-tank rifles. Overall, the advanced armor penetration system is really good. I would like to see them kind of fix up the manual a little bit and get it up to date. It is several updates behind. Overall, the continued updates kind of change how the game plays. Obviously, there is dynamic time of day, light sources, and weather effects. This is obviously going to change how you conduct battle. There's flamethrowers, there's helicopters, ATGMs. There's a massive amount of weapon systems within this game. I believe they're working on adding drones and different artillery types. It's a standout game. It's easy to pick up if you kind of fight through the UI initially because there's not really much to understand with the gameplay mechanics. I mean, it basically just turns out move tank here, and you can change basically its formation, whether it's smoking, whether it's not smoking, how the AI behaves, things like that. But beyond that, it just has a different AI that or a UI than some of the other war games, which is a bit jarring to some longtime war game veterans. So, like, comment, subscribe, and check out the other games on the list. Welcome to the absolute titan that is Command Ops 2. It is the only free war game on this list. It's been in development for quite some time. It does have several DLCs. It's a high fidelity modeling of continuous time and space, realistic command structures and process, macro management, and order delays. Similar to other war games, there is a bit of a delay when issuing orders. These battles take place over days and possibly just an extremely extended amount of time. So you're moving your forces along the battlefield. Combat Ops is by far it's one of my favorite games. It's one I've had the most fun with. It's got an advanced and impressive AI devised at the operational level. So it's not so much based around tactical battles. You're moving large armies across the battlefield. You're coordinating on a very large scale. That's a bit different than other AIs or other war games that take place on the tactical level. Generally, those tactical level war games are small unit tactics, so platoons, like small platoons, squads, things along those levels. Whereas Command Ops 2 is much, much larger, and the command delay and the command orders and delay and everything else is on a much larger scale. One thing that is interesting, it does take place across several theaters, but all of those theaters do have DLCs with them. So if you do enjoy the game, I believe you get 3 or 4 missions free, but then you kind of need to dive into the DLC. They've been on sale for quite a lot recently. I pick them up for about 50% off, which puts them at around $15, but they are $34 DLCs. Unrealistic command decision making, these are all based off the Steam page. Assess, plan, order at the Corps, Division, and Brigade commander level. There's no hexes. A lot of games try and separate themselves from hexes, but still have that same hex scale. I believe Command Ops does that extremely, extremely well. I also believe Flashpoint Campaigns does that extremely well, although that is more of a hex-based game. There's so much to talk about. It's an extremely in-depth game. There's a lot of information, realistic orders of battle. So if you're a history geek, you're going to find something to love here. It's not super beginner friendly, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but it's just one of those games where it's very, very in depth, and you have to have kind of you have to spend your time in the manual and playing the tutorials and kind of figuring things out. It does boast about automated bridge building. That's a bit interesting. I haven't talked about bridge building too much throughout this series, but it is just something that exists. The weather changes. I mean, it's obviously it's a game that takes place over several days, so the weather should change and it should have those realistic weather effects. I don't. I I think a lot of people will find something to love here. It's just going to be a game you're going to struggle with a little bit. I'm glad it's free. It's going to allow you to get. It's going to allow you to dive into the series. Um, Overall, I mean, you're just gonna have something to fun here. There is a map maker, editor, things along those lines. It's not a click fest. They highlight that, which means you kind of just hit play and you just watch your turn play out. Welcome to another Cold War Gone Hot war game. This time we're taking a look at Armor Brigade. It relies on real-time tactics or real-time tactical war game focused on realism and replayability or playability. It's a fun game, which means it's easy to access, and I truly can't emphasize that word playability enough. It's by far one of the easiest war games there is to pick up. It says that some of its inspirations are Steel Panthers, Close Combat, or Flashpoint Campaign Southern Storm. You can see a lot of it draws a lot of influence from at least Close Combat and Flashpoint. I've never played Steel Panthers. Overall, Cold War Gone Hot is kind of popular right now. So if you haven't played any Cold War Gone Hot games, then I would definitely check out Armor Brigade. Get it on sale. Get most of these war games on sale. The Armor Brigade sequel is in the works right now. Overall, it's by far one of the better war games, one of the most accessible, super easy to pick up and play. It has all the standard things you expect in a war game, such as training lever, morale, fatigue, dynamic AI. There is no scripting in this war game, so you're going to be playing with the default AI, whatever that comes with. A few things that do stand out to me that make it a little bit different is how air support works, close air support, or even like close air support with helicopters. Those do function a little differently than other war games. They're not so much on call, they have scheduled arrival times. So if you played a lot of Graviteam Tactics, you're used to that scheduled arrival time for artillery. Armor Brigade is going to feel basically the same in that aspect. A few things that are unique in this game is the scouting. Scouting, you do get forward scouts that can deploy forward and kind of recon the area, and you're going to use those. You need to use those a lot to kind of spot out where units are so you can start calling an artillery or at least schedule some air support. Overall, the helicopters do rely on previous Cold War tactics, so they'll do a lot of bobbing. They'll drop below tree lines, they'll pop up above tree lines, and engage units with high explosive rounds, so like your ATGMs or even just normal gunfire. There are some air-to-air engagements. There's ground-to-air radars to kind of shoot down those helicopters, aircraft as they come into the battle sector. There's different types of artillery. You're never going to have a bad time with artillery. It is king of the battlefield. So dual-purpose improvised cluster munitions. One thing that they are limited. They don't leave like any unexploded ordinances, any IEDs, things like that. So once they hit the ground, they do blow up 100% of the time. There is rocket artillery, smoke shell. Smoke is really, really important in this game to obstruct lines of sight and overall kind of deter the unit's line of advance. There are some neutral units, radios. The radios are a bit unique. HQ units, they function like all HQ units. They boost morale, they reduce command time. And overall, I'm really excited for the sequel. But if you can't wait for the sequel, then I truly suggest that you check out Armor Brigade because you're not going to have a bad time with it. And if anything, you can kind of just ease your way in because the sequel is going to be 3D, and I believe it will have some 2D aspects as well, similar to how Armor Brigade is. Let me know your thoughts on Armor Brigade as well. I see a lot of people watching the videos, but I don't see a lot of other YouTube content on it. So let me know what you think. Is it a game for you? Is it not a game for you? All right. Welcome to Gunner Heat PC, a hybrid simulation game with special attention to authenticity and fun. Let's talk about fun real quick. A lot of war games forget that aspect of development. Gunner Heat PC is not one of those developers or is not one of those simulators. It's a game you can kind of just pick up and instantly play. You do not need to dive in and read a real in-depth manual. You can basically just jump into the training missions, or you can even just hop into the game, hit the help key, and it's going to display all the hotkeys for you. There's been a lot of attention to detail in this game. It's evolved over time, and they continue to add a lot of quality of life fixes, new vehicles, new not so much new areas, but new missions. Watching it develop has been really interesting. It's gone from a basic little arcade game to a more in-depth simulator. They've changed a few things. The missions have gotten far more dynamic, and I look forward to the future of Gunner Heat PC. They do try and add a lot of simulation features to it. They are adding more forces. I believe we're getting the Soviets at some point in time, and the developers are real big on authenticity. So they'll include tanks from certain eras if they were part of the area that they're developing. All right. And so there is a bit of combined arm doctrine, and that's been real interesting to watch unfold as well. There's helicopters, there's APCs. I believe they are working on adding infantry. There's ATGMs, which kind of just focus as like an ATGM platform. So if you're running over hills or just being too careless, an ATGM will fly out of the woods and give you a bad time. Overall, there is, I believe, off map artillery right now. I do not think there's any on map artillery, so you can call on high explosive strikes, smokes, and it's overall, it's like by far, it's been one of my favorite simulators next to Steel Beast. It's a lot easier to pick up and play. I'd also argue that most tank games are easy to pick up and play, but seeing how Gunner Heat PC's evolved and the continued development and support has really been something that stands out to me. Personally, I believe they call it a tank game that's designed for tank nerds. That stands out to me because then if you truly enjoy like tanks, tank combat, or just have a lot of knowledge about tanks, combined armed doctrine, or even the Cold War gone hot situation, then you're going to find something that to enjoy here, something to like, something to love. It does come with modern tanks, realistic systems, damage models, but I really want to highlight that it's a focus on fun, but not a focus on fun with that War Thunder aspect. Overall, I'm glad they chose the path they chose. I'm glad the development's improved over time. It's greatly improved, and it's a self-published game, I believe. There's a few developers. It's not a solo dev game, and yeah, I think you're gonna have a good time. And if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hang around for the next couple of hidden gems because there are some really good ones on this list. Peace. Welcome to Combat Mission Shock Force 2, another hyper-realistic simulator that's on the market right now, and it recently came to Steam. It's a tactical level war game. It comes with several campaigns and a ton of skirmish matches. Combat Mission Shock Force 2 takes place during a hypothetical conflict between Syria and NATO forces. So, what separates Combat Mission Shock Force 2 from the rest of the war games on this list? Well, the intense attention to detail, realistic battle effects, and realistic bullet penetration models are a few of those things. It also is WeGo and turn based. It has unmatched realistic physics, ballistics, and battlefield effects. There are two types of Syrian unconventional forces you have spies, IEDs, and VIEDs, also known as vehicle borne improvised explosive devices. It comes with a map editor where you can create scenarios and campaigns. There are on map mortars, mortar vehicles, drones, anti aircraft fire, and other modern warfare equipment. Overall, combat. A few things that stand out to me are the destructible environments and the tactical AI. The destructible environments are a lot of fun to play through. They mix up the gameplay, and you can kind of see the effect of your combined arms assault. While watching some of my previous videos, I truly did become engrossed in the combat that was taking place. The simulator truly is a sight to behold, and watching the units kind of suppress and move forward is something I really, really enjoyed. And it's by far one of the main reasons why I play war games. Those combined arms assault, dodging IEDs, and overall watching your forces succeed against all odds is something that everyone can enjoy, in my opinion. Overall, Combat Mission is by far one of the best simulators out there. I truly recommend it to people who are looking to get into the simulator market. It's going to be easy to adopt. It has several modes that can easily be managed. So you have your real time and your WeGo modes. Overall, the combat environment is super fun to play through. The dynamic areas, each map is unique, and the campaigns are they do have a bit of a consistency to them, meaning like if you lose too many units, then you will have less units in your next battle. I truly think if you enjoy war games or just enjoy like the setting, then you're going to have fun with Combat Mission. There's several combat missions, but personally one of my favorites is Shock Force 2, mostly because of its setting and it's kind of um not other than war environment, but it's we're going to say like counterinsurgency level of warfare. So a few features that stand out to me are obviously how line of sight's calculated. It's usually your units have sensors, they have eyes. So all of this is modeled within the simulation that is Combat Mission. It's not just like a flat playing field where a unit just moves over a hill and suddenly they can see everything. And that's something that's interesting about war games. And I think everyone's going to enjoy that aspect. It really ramps up the dynamic combat and really kind of makes the player feel like more grounded in a realistic scenario. I truly think you're going to enjoy this game. I mean, I have a lot of fun with it. There's a full range of weather, fall, spring. Watching your helicopters get shot down while they're off map is kind of fun. All of that is a lot of fun. And then the kind of like mix of hybrid warfare where you're fighting counterinsurgency with next to a peer-to-peer opponent makes your tactics and makes the tactics a bit more different and a bit more fun. I think you're going to enjoy this game. Make sure you check it out. And if you've made it this far, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. It truly helps out the channel. Share the video. Have a wonderful day.